For how successful the San Francisco 49ers have been as an organization, it's been way too long since this team has won a Super Bowl. So coming up on today's show, I'm going to break down and explain why San Francisco can finally push through and win that 6th Lombardi trophy after having made it to back-to-back NFC championship games and 3 NFC title games over the last 4 years. Let's begin with this, and then we'll start taking some of your questions at the end of the show. The 49ers will still have an elite defense. They really haven't lost a lot of marquee players on this defense. I understand Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Azeez Al-Shire, Jimmy Ward, but they have been able to reload this defense, and we're still talking about a defensive unit that has a great defensive coordinator in Steve Wilks. Nick Bosa, reigning Defensive Player of the Year. They added Javon Hargrave. Drake Jackson can have a big year, too, if he takes that leap forward. Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, still one of the 2 best linebackers in the National Football League. I do believe that Charvarius Ward as well as Diamador Lenore can be very good corners. And then a guy like Darrell Luter I think can also step in, but Isaiah Oliver is a name to watch. Steve Wilks very complimentary of him when he talked about him on Friday, saying we can send him home on some blitz packages. This guy is going to be a good player. Talanoa Hufanga was an all-pro player in year 2. San Francisco, with that elite defense, still going to be one of the best in the NFL. And yes, they did lose D'Amico Ryans, but when I talked to Jay Glazer of Fox Sports during the Super Bowl week, he told me that the hiring of Steve Wilks, according to people across the league, one of the best hires among all coaches in the NFL during the offseason cycle. This guy has a great background as a DC. You're going to like his swagger, his personality, and his confidence. And what you lose with D'Amico, Steve Wilks is also a fabulous defensive coordinator. You're not really going to lose all that much. And then you go to the offensive side of the football. I understand a lot of people have an issue with Kyle Shanahan. You can't argue that Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in the sport. With Brock Purdy, a rookie quarterback, this is a Niners team that was averaging 30 points per game, right? Since the acquisition of Christian McCaffrey, before Brock Purdy had played, they were averaging more than 30 points per game. From a schematic standpoint, you ask people in the know across the NFL what they think about Kyle Shanahan's scheme, his offensive mind, they'll tell you he's one of the best. And then there's the recent history that the 49ers have had over the last few years. 3 NFC title games over the last 4 years. And they've come so close to breaking through in 3 of those 4 years. 2020, injury-plagued season after that Super Bowl loss to Kansas City. And I think that the grouping of this team, the nucleus of it, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Kyle Juszczyk, Nick Bosa, they understand that the moment is right now. They understand that their prime years and the opportunity to win a Super Bowl is in this moment. So I think they're going to go all out here understanding what's at stake, and they certainly have a chance to get to the big dance, and this time they can win it because of their complementary team. They are a multiple squad offensive powerhouse, defensive powerhouse. I understand there are quarterback questions on this team. Who the hell is going to start the first month of the season? It could be Brock Purdy. It could be Trey Lance. It could be Sam Darnold. We literally do not know. But the offense for that quarterback is stacked, and Kyle Shanahan's going to be in the headset of that quarterback calling the plays. How many offenses can say that Trent Williams is at left tackle, that Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell are the 2 backs, Kyle Juszczyk is the best fullback in the NFL, Deebo Samuel, one of the best weapons, Brandon Ayuk, one of the best all-around wide receivers, and George Kittle, probably still the best all-around tight end in the NFL. A lot of teams would dream, and they do salivate over having that type of offensive firepower. San Francisco has it, even with those quarterback questions. I talk about the 49ers being multiple. What I mean by that is that they can win in multiple ways. If they need to have a shootout with a team like the Philadelphia Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs, I think offensively they're going to be able to go blow for blow like an old school heavyweight bout when Mike Tyson was throwing haymakers back in the day. But also, if they play a defensive-laden team that can keep the Niners' offense in check, like let's say a Dallas Cowboys team that played very well against the Niners in the playoffs last year, the Niners can win an old-school, slug-it-out, defensive-oriented game that is very, very low scoring. I think that's important because whether you're going on the road playing in some cold games or You're in a dome having to outscore a team when your defense doesn't have it, like the Niners against the Raiders last year. They can win a couple of different ways. I think that's important. Then you look at the landscape of the NFC. I think it's the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the San Francisco 49ers right here, right? Then there's a big drop-off to like the Dallas Cowboys, the Detroit Lions, and all the other teams. I think the Seahawks should be in that category as well. Point here being, though, the Eagles had really good injury luck last year. If they have an injury-plagued season, that might knock them out as a front-runner in the NFC. The conference is there for the Niners to have, and you can make the argument from top to bottom, they might have the most talented roster. As for the Niners' schedule, it isn't overly hard. Having to go to Seattle on Thanksgiving, and then to Philadelphia the week after that, then play Seattle again. That's a brutal 3-week stretch for sure. You do get 10 days of rest against Philadelphia. You have to imagine you can at least split against Seattle, but there's some winnable games, especially to start the year. That's why I've continued to say it's paramount for the Niners to begin this season very, very quickly and not start slow like they had the last couple of years, which has been a trademark under Kyle Shanahan. Before we start taking your questions, subscribe to the show, year-round coverage of the San Francisco 49ers, and in the fall, preseason, regular season, we're going to be doing some watch parties here on the show. And if you want to give me a follow on Twitter, feel free to do that. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. It's the same handle on both platforms. Now let's open up the floor, start taking some of your questions that I posed on a mailbag post on our community tab. Make sure you check that out, as well as our YouTube shorts. Ernesto Ojeda, which game do you think would be tough for the Niners to play at this season, either on the road or at home? I think it's that 3-week stretch that I talked about. We had a couple of questions about the Niners' schedule on that post. Look, Seattle, Thanksgiving, Philadelphia, back to Seattle. That's as tough as a 3-week stretch as you'll get in the NFL. My precious one, Week 13 is redemption. Niners against the Eagles. Look, in my schedule prediction, I did have the Eagles winning that game, 33-30. Niners can easily win, though. They're on par with Philadelphia. Chualor, 49ers. Do we have enough money to pay our rookies as well as Nick Bosa? Yes, that money has been budgeted for. Keep in mind, you can backload that contract for Nick Bosa so that you can afford it here in the initial couple of years. And then Birdman Drug Stories. My guy, his Celtics going up against my Sixers in the playoffs. He said 11-6 is my prediction. I like it. I think that was my prediction as well. Or no, 12-5, my prediction. Rolly. How did I not see it? That's great producer work right there. 12-5, my prediction, after the Niners went 13-4 last year. So Birdman Drug Stories, I have one more win and one less loss. So that's going to wrap it up on today's San Francisco 49ers report. Greatly appreciate all of you for hopping on board. And if you enjoyed this style of video, simply let me know down in the comment section and show us some love by subscribing.